With so many ways to buy a car nowadays, it can get confusing on whether it's best to finance or to lease a car. There are many factors that play into making this decision, and the wrong choice will often end up costing you thousands of dollars in the long run. In this video, I break down the pros and cons when it comes to leasing versus financing a vehicle. Stick around to the end of the video to find out which option would be best for your personal situation and preferences. This is 4-Wheel Finance, a channel dedicated to helping you make smart car buying and financial decisions. As always, I'm not here to tell you what to do, rather explain your options, the pros and cons associated with each option, and let you make your own decision. As you may have noticed, I've recently worked on increasing my production quality in order to bring you more value. These videos take quite a lot of time and effort to make, and I would really appreciate it if you gave it a like and commented down below some other video ideas you would like me to make. Leasing has recently become a popular choice among consumers. Roughly 20 to 25% of vehicles on the road nowadays are leased. There are many pros associated with leasing that are appealing to customers. You get to enjoy a high quality, newer model year vehicle for lower monthly payments in comparison to financing. You don't have to go through the hassle of selling the vehicle at the end of the lease term, and the down payment on a lease is usually quite a bit less than financing. You'll also get to upgrade to a newer vehicle after just a few short years, as lease terms range from 2 to 4 years, with 3 years being the most common. Oftentimes, the maintenance of the vehicle is covered under the lease, and you may have the option to purchase the vehicle at the end of the term. Leasing is typically better for those interested in a luxury vehicle and don't want to deal with the hassle of financing, and always want the newest tech and gadgets, so they tend to get a brand new car every few years. But you definitely have to pay to play in this case when it comes to leasing. On average, it's about 14% more expensive than financing or purchasing a vehicle in cash. Still sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, not exactly. There are definitely some notable downsides when it comes to leasing. Lease vehicles are often limited on the amount of miles that you get to drive per year before getting a hit with a bunch of expensive fees. This usually ranges from 10 to 15,000 miles per year, with a fee ranging from 10 to 50 cents for every single mile over that limit that you get to drive. You can imagine that things can get super pricey once those fees start adding up once you go over those mileage limits. And for reference, the average person drives 14,263 miles per year, so that 15,000 mile limit should be okay and you should be covered. But I don't know about you, but having a limit on the amount of miles that you can drive per year would make me very nervous and is a huge downside in my opinion. Not only that, there are horror stories out there of all the fees that you get hit with at the end of a lease. The vehicle needs to be returned in tip-top shape, so if you have young kids or dogs or messy friends in your vehicle and the wear and tear shows over those few years, you'll most likely be assessed a fee for not returning it in the showroom quality that you received it in. Any ding or scuff or blemish would most likely end up costing you quite a bit of money, and those fees are inflated a bit as that's where a lot of dealers actually make their revenue from. Another downside that many don't think of is that the insurance required for a lease vehicle is usually much more than if you were to finance one yourself. Due to the lease vehicle being very new and often luxury brands, this carries a high monthly insurance rate along with it, usually up to $300,000 in liability coverage, which equates to about $275 per month, whereas a normal insurance rate for a brand new vehicle is around $150 a month. So a lease vehicle is going to have about twice as high of an insurance. Insurance varies a ton from person to person. I've got a link to a free auto quote in the description below where you could save up to $600 a year, so make sure you give that a look if you're interested in seeing if you could save a little bit of money on your current monthly car insurance. You've most likely heard that leasing a vehicle is generally more expensive in the long run in comparison to financing. When you lease a car, you're essentially paying for the use of the vehicle for the first 2 to 4 years of its life, which is when the vehicle tends to depreciate the most. Typically, in those first few years, vehicles depreciate drastically, and then that tends to taper off the older that a vehicle gets. Granted, this also depends on the type of vehicle that you are purchasing. For example, a new BMW 3 Series will depreciate about 40% on average in the first 3 years, whereas a brand new Toyota Camry will depreciate about 24% over the first 3 years. Now, both of these calculations are assuming that the vehicle was purchased brand new and driven about 12,000 miles per year. So you can see, it's pretty clear that leasing a vehicle will end up being more expensive than financing one, especially over a long period of time. Now on to the pros and cons when it comes to financing a vehicle. Financing a vehicle has become extremely popular recently as well, with loan terms extended out to 84 months. 85% of new vehicles on the road are financed, with the average American carrying over $20,000 in auto debt. This brings the national auto debt to over $1.4 trillion, and to put that in perspective, the national student loan debt is $1.7 trillion. So it's pretty impressive that Americans have almost as much auto loan debt as they do student loan debt. And not only that, of all the vehicles on the road that are financed, over 5% of those people are delinquent on their payments. However, it does differ quite a bit from leasing, as you have the freedom to customize the vehicle if you so choose to. You can add lift kits and performance parts if you're okay with voiding any sort of warranty that you may have. You aren't limited to the amount of miles that you're allowed to drive per year, which is a huge plus. You're free to sell it whenever you would like, and you don't have to wait for the lease term to be over. Not to mention, at the end of a financing term, when you've paid the car off, you'll have quite a bit of equity there built up, which is a nice plus. Financing a vehicle can also be a good way to improve your credit, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to that portion. You can build a great credit score just by paying off your credit card each month with routine bills such as groceries and gas. I wouldn't encourage anyone to go into debt for the sole reason of trying to build their credit. That doesn't make any sense to me. Also, not every car has a lease option. If you're like me, you often search for particular vehicle models that are a little bit harder to come by, or that are often for more the dedicated car person. And again, once that vehicle is paid off, your only costs will be insurance, which will drop a ton once your vehicle is paid off, fuel, and maintenance, which is miles cheaper than a continuous lease payment. However, financing has its downsides as well. Oftentimes, your monthly payment will be quite a bit higher when compared to leasing. You'll most likely have to pay more sales tax as you're paying the interest on the entire cost of the vehicle, which, depending on the loan term and percentage, can actually add up to quite a bit of money. The car's future value isn't really known, and when it comes to leasing, they have a very close estimate as to what the car will be worth, so those monthly lease payments essentially cover the depreciation of the vehicle over those first few years. And at some point in time, the warranty will end. And when it comes to leasing, the warranty oftentimes covers the entire length of the lease, with maintenance and any sort of accidents and routine maintenance being covered under that lease. And depending on the vehicle, if you have repairs and maintenance, that could be extremely pricey once the warranty ends on a financed vehicle. At the end of the day, in my opinion, I tend to prefer buying a vehicle in cash or finance something super cheap and reliable for a very short period of time, no more than 3 to 4 years if possible. And when it comes to leasing or financing or purchasing a vehicle in cash, one of the biggest factors is going to be the make and model of vehicle that you are buying. Basically, no matter what route you decide to go, if you're interested in buying a BMW or Range Rover or something like that, it's going to be a very expensive experience because those brands have pretty poor reliability ratings, and the costs associated with repairs and maintenance can be astronomical. At this point in time, I still think the best way to go if you're interested in growing your wealth the quickest you can, and you don't really care about cars all that much, is to buy a used Toyota or Honda that gets good gas mileage and is reliable, and drive that puppy into the ground. Preferably something that has already been hit with the vast majority of depreciation, if at all possible. I would much rather be rich than go broke trying to look rich. In society, everyone buys things that they don't need with money that they don't have to impress people that they don't even like. Don't get caught up in the rat race trying to impress your peers. Comment down below any experience you have personally have had with financing or leasing a vehicle, and some of the pros and cons associated with that I haven't covered here in this video that you've experienced. I plan to continue to up my production quality in order to deliver most value as I can. Once again, this is 4Wheel Finance. This channel is dedicated to helping you make informed vehicle decisions and personal finance decisions. Let me know if you all would be interested in some videos more so relating to the personal finance side of things. Please leave any further questions or opinions in the comments down below, and thank you very much for watching.